And we are back once again with the Think Fitness Life podcast. This week, we are answering the big age-old question that still is heard by trainers today. And emails are written in more so about specific scenarios to this question. But the question we're going to answer today, or discuss today, is what is better, cardio or weights? And before we get into that, we have some news. Mr. Eric Menchie over there. What do you got for us?
So there was just a study released, and I was just briefly reading through the internet today, and it said it takes just 1 day of use of your common sunscreen for it to enter the bloodstream. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. So I went in, and they've studied 4 chemicals that, aren't really healthy for our system to have in. And we all know that the skin is the biggest organ of the body, and it's going to absorb a lot of stuff. And where we thinking is sunscreen is really good, actually the levels of toxicity by absorbing these chemicals can actually be really bad. So which is kind of cool. They said I think the Health Advisory Board or Center for Drug Evaluation and Research and the US FDA, we all love, they're actually they conducted the study, and they're going to look into, okay, what is actually safe, what's not safe. Do we have to start taking some of the stuff off the market and making better products for people to use? And that kind of worried me because I'm not one that goes crazy with sunscreen, but I'm also not one that goes out and say, hey, I can stay in the sun for 4 to 5 hours and not get burnt, because I burn like crazy. So it's kind of had me a little interested. Okay, what's going to be the best options for sunscreen to going forward? What isn't going to be absorbed to the body? And is there really a best option for sunscreens?
Yeah, it's funny. It almost works out in our favor that both you and I are on the pasty side of the scale of the spectrum. And, I can only last like maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops without putting sunscreen on. So I usually do put sunscreen on, or just put a hat on or something. But I use like the zinc oxide. It's just interesting how now stuff's coming out about stuff seeping through the bloodstream. So I kind of actually just have been redoing all the products I've been putting on my body or having around my house. And I got like a coconut based sunblock. And, we don't know what the right answer is yet, but that is a really interesting point to bring up. And a whole nother topic we could get into with just household products, cleaning agents, skincare products, toothpastes, all the chemicals that are actually estrogen-like hormonally when they enter the bloodstream or get in our bodies. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. I guess you're supposed to. What are you supposed to do now? Just put a shirt on instead of
a lot of
on?
these articles they'll throw out to grab attention, which is awesome and great. And they said in the article, there's going to have to be a little more research done and following. But I think the main takeaway is just like you said, be cautious of what you're putting not only in your body but on your skin. Whether it's, everything is pretty much a chemical that we're putting on, lotions, all that stuff. But be mindful of what's going in. Look up what some of these ingredients are and how it can actually react and damage the skin. And like you said, find better options with less ingredients or all natural ingredients. Because there's got to be somewhere out there. There's got to be this combination of all natural ingredients that's going to help the skin be saved by sun damage. It's got to be out there.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's out there. And, necessity is the mother of all invention. So because this stuff is coming out now that all this stuff is bad for you, and all these shortcuts we've made and all these polymers and plastics and things that we make is bad for the environment and not eco-friendly and leaves a footprint, we're headed to a point where we need just like strict regulation laws about what we can actually make and produce and leave behind, because everything that you do has an effect, and we need to admit that. And it's just a shame because you don't think of the bigger picture when, say, you're in the boardroom of a company and you're trying to make a product safer, or maybe you're trying to make it cheaper, more affordable for everybody. You're trying to mass produce them so you can get them to everybody. And maybe it's something silly like a toy, and you want to make it out of plastic versus wood. And now it's got chemicals associated with it, but now you made it affordable to everybody. You made it, you mass produced it. So it's really, we need to also be aware that it's not like anyone's fault. We can't point fingers, and we need to just all take responsibility and realize we're all in this together. But we just can't make shortcuts. There's no reason to manufacture something or make something so that it, is easier for X reasons or saves costs on production, or easier to transport. And it's easier for people get this mindset. It's easier for people to think about buying paper plates and plastic spoons and silverware than just having the diligence and discipline to wash your own dishes. So it's just, we're headed there as a culture. I think we're tipped in the right direction. It's just, this stuff has to come out more and more, and it has to be more apparent, and people have to be more aware of it so that we make the right
That's
changes.
all we can do, and we can inform the public of it.
Well, I think that's what ABC, or what'd you say?
Yeah.
Who did the study? FDA did the study. I think that's what FDA is doing. With doing that,
Which is great, because
the sunscreen study, and it's definitely one important area to look.
Yeah.
But we could look at so many other areas, and a major one is weed killers. But yeah, that's a whole nother topic we could dive into. So before we do that, let's keep the topic at hand. What's better, cardio or
this is the
weights?
age old. I mean, there's books written on it, what to do, which is better. And I always get asked this, like you said, every trainer I feel like gets asked this, and I don't think it's a bad question. I actually really think it's a good question, and a lot of the general population is kind of on one side of the bank or the river or the other. You're either one camp or the other. It's you're all cardio, or you're in favor of cardio, or you're kind of like a weight guy. You're weight training it. And even I'm sure you have other trainers that you've worked with in the past that are either, oh, you're definitely like the weight guy, and then these people are definitely the cardio, the runner people.
Yeah, they do. They'll classify people, but honestly, the bottom line is, you need both, but there might be a right scenario where one is more going to be more the focus than the other. So it's just kind of dependent upon your previous exercise that week or in the past couple months, what goals you want to achieve and where you're headed, and quite frankly, how your body feels that day. Because if you feel exhausted and drained, and your metabolic system's depleted, your endocrine system's depleted, and the last thing you should do is long bouts of cardio or maybe even weight train. But hey, what you could still have those same scenario and have really good heart rate variability, saying that your body is ready for a vigorous training session. So you still could do the weights. So there's going to be a time and a place, I guess, is a good answer. But let's stick with like weight loss, because I think a lot of people ask this question in terms of weight loss. What do I do? Do I just go do cardio, or I gotta go do cardio today? And it's also really accessible, right? Like it's really easy for everyone to just say, I'm going to go for a long walk or a run or go on a hike versus I'm going to go weight train. and it's easier for people to begin with the run. I believe, I feel,
Oh yeah,
right? Like all you gotta do is walk out and keep going until they stop. Versus like weight training. Well, what does a whole hour of weight training look like, and what does a weight training workout look like? Is it an hour? So I feel like that's why people lean towards that side, and that's why people answer cardio more. And if we look at the science into it, um, how people like that would argue it. You have people argue for cardio because they would say that you're burning more calories during the actual workout. So to that, I say perhaps not. So that's a gray area answer. But with the weight training workout, you are improving your lean body mass. You're improving your um, metabolic rate in such a way that it's going to get better. So overall, what's better in the bigger picture is if you weight train, you'll improve your metabolism and you will burn more calories after the workout and for the rest of the week, essentially.
agreed,
Wouldn't you
totally.
agree?
And years of research has backed that up. But yeah, I think a lot of people still are in that hey, I want this now. I want these calories now. And a lot of the breakdowns with kind of looking at, all right, you're burning calories, what's burning more is a lot of times people will say cardio burns fat more, or I get more in a fat burning zone. I'm sure you've heard that a ton of times. And you've probably trained in the fat burning zone, which is great. And then you look at, the percentage of fat burned during a cardiovascular, call it a 20-minute run or something. Yeah, your fat's being utilized because you're in that energy zone. But overall, compared to if you're like weight training, you can actually burn a lot more calories, and a better percentage might not come from fats, but you're still overall burning more calories, which I think a lot of people need to kind of understand is it's not about what you're burning, it's about total number. And people get lost in this, oh, well, if I want to lose body fat percentage, I need to burn fat, which is not wrong. But then they look at fat as a fuel source, and then they say, I have to burn more of that. And they're kind of, you're, they're making that metabolic pathway efficient, but it becomes so efficient, it adapts so quickly that they're not addressing the other ones and really using the fat stores of the body that they really want to target. That's, I mean,
Interesting. I can see how people can
it's
fall into that
very
trap.
simple to fall into. And a lot of people, that's why I love the word fat. And I've read over books and years of reading is that's kind of that's a bad word to kind of say what it is. And, if you back in season one, we went over, why fat got the really bad rep in the food industry and, years of bad marketing of all that stuff. But people hear fat and they automatically, it's like a negative word for them. So when they think, okay, exercise,
Right. Like even
yeah,
like dietary fat
right.
is what you're saying,
And they
right?
don't think of it as like we said a couple episodes, a fuel source. They're more looking at as this is bad. I need to deal with this first. Cool. Totally agree. They get on the cardio bandwagon. Hardest thing with cardio is the body adapts very, very fast. I mean, within 6 to 12 weeks, most people will be at their VO2 max and close to what their genetic potential is if they train right. The tough thing is, most people will get on, they run, they're seeing good results for the first 2 to 3 weeks. And we all know that adaptation, you have to have further progression to increase adaptations. Well, people don't get that. And they start saying, hey, well,
Right.
20, 30 minutes is good. I'll come in and do that a day. I'm seeing results. Why aren't I seeing results now? Why did it just stop?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and if they do it too long, they'll actually get worse results, and they'll get what's called law of diminishing returns, and their body will deplete. And you've seen those people in the gym. You've seen they're usually a little bit older. Maybe their endocrine system's been depleted a little bit, and their diet and habits have taken their poor diet and poor habits have taken over a little bit as well. But they do the same bouts of cardio, the same equipment, maybe a different equipment, whatever, but like the same routine of cardio, crushing themselves, sweating the whole time. They do it every day, and they've seen no change. You've seen those. And it's the same thing that happens. You just get to a point where you're not even getting benefits, and you're actually making your body worse. And the same. I think it's important to mention the same can happen with weights.
Yes.
And quite frankly, the really the biggest thing with both sides of this is weight training and cardio is that the underlying principle is like a training effect. So you could go do the answer could be no, right? What's better, weight training or cardio? The answer could be no across the board. Neither's better. If you walk over to the cardio equipment and you just don't do anything that challenges your homeostatic level, then you'll never get an effect out of it. If you do the same thing with the weights, you go over there and you pick something up that doesn't challenge your body, and you don't really feel anything. It might hurt a little bit, but you're not challenging your musculoskeletal system. You're not challenging yourself in a way that you get a training effect. Then they're both wrong. Both aren't going to be the right answer. So the real answer is pushing yourself to a level of a comfort challenge. So you should be able to perform something, whether it's with body weight and you have to cognitively focus on it really hard to get it done. That's challenging. Or if it's, 200 pounds and you've lifted 150 before for 10 reps, but never 200 for 10 reps, that's challenging. If you've done, 150 for one rep and you're going to do 160 for one rep, that's another challenging. So there's so many different ways that you can, raise the bar, so to speak, on your body, on your system, so that the answer is yes in both scenarios. Cardio is good is better. Weights are better. It's not that one's necessarily better than the other. It's more about which is going to be better for you at that time. That's going to allow you to push yourself to get that training effect. And most of the time, like what Mensch was talking about, hitting that aerobic system is the key to it all. If you can be smart about it and get a 3-minute warm up in where you just do a 3-minute jog, then you do maybe spend a couple more minutes doing some movement prep and a couple rounds of some body weight stuff, you're going to have your aerobic system online that would come online if you had just started jogging on the treadmill anyway. So if you do that and then go weight train, well, shit, you just got so efficient with that hour that you go work out, because you're going to also be not only hitting your cardiorespiratory system, you're going to be hitting your neuromuscular system. You're going to be making strength progress or progression or gains, and you're also going to be making cardiovascular strength progress. So I just think that it's a trick question, right? It's like, what's better, weights or cardio? Well, they could actually both be worse, or they could both be better, or one could be better than the other at a given time. And it's just about figuring that out. And I think that's why it's such a common question, is because people they're not saying what's better. They're literally looking at you and me and other trainers, and they're saying, what should I go do right now? What would be better for me right this second?
And what all you just said was perfect. And people, the hardest thing is they need to be on a periodized program. And I think that's very tough for people to conceptualize. Yes. Is everything in this world of exercise and fitness needs to be periodized and programmed out and changed every so often, so the body can keep
and it
better.
Doesn't have to have a rhyme or reason to that change, but it has to be a change, because you can't just go in there and think that you're going to bench press a pound more every single day. It doesn't work like that. You have to be variable with your weights, your rep ranges, your sets, your time under tension, your rest time. You have to change all those variables so that your body continues to make adaptations.
Yeah. And right or wrong, you could be on one side or the other on this. And you can go back and have a debate back and forth all day. And I would agree with both sides. It's how do you implement both together in a sound, I don't want to say program, in a sound way that you're getting the maximum benefit of all the systems of energy expenditure that your body needs to use. Overusing one will not help the other one. And on the other side, weight training.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good
we've
point.
seen people who just do weights, just weight train. Awesome. They're really good at lifting heavy things and moving things from point A to point B and doing reps. You get them to do some sort of exertion or circuit type training. What's the first thing that you notice that happens to these people?
Start
Yes, they
sweating.
start sweating and they keep going. And all of a sudden their heart rate gets high and they get into this zone of, oh, I don't feel good. pH drops. They're starting to get way out of their normalcy of training. And what do you get? People start getting nauseous. They feel lightheaded. That's a sign to people or people listening that you might be less conditioned than you think, or you're less conditioned to complete that task. And the goal is for a lot of people is to better condition themselves to complete that task and not feel like that. And you see new people all the time with that. They'll come in, they're not used to the fast-paced style of, I kind of run a, superset, tricep program, sometimes circuits. People get into that and they're like, wow, this is not like I've lifted before. And I want to kind of bridge the gap of, okay, hey, you don't have to just be lifting with one set, rest 3 minutes, another set, rest 3 minutes. You can kind of cross over these two lines of weights and cardio and get the same effect without even stepping on a cardio machine. And that's where I like to guide people and bring them in as I coach them in as, hey, let's get the best of both worlds. Yeah, you can still go 20, 30 minutes on a Stairmaster. I love it. But when you're working, with weights, how can we be able to drive both systems to be healthy? Because at the end of the day, cardiovascular work or cardio work is to make your heart be more efficient. By all means, I'm not looking at it to be, oh, I'm going to burn calories because I'm doing cardio. No, I want that heart rate down so it beats less. So whatever your finite number of heartbeats is, you don't hit that sooner in life. And let's have everything else, circulation, keep your blood pressure low, keep stress off the system. That's what I look at cardio in. And I think people should look at cardio as more of, here comes my favorite word, getting parasympathetic by using that
Yeah.
system. And weight training is more, hey, this is sympathetic, fight or flight and go.
Yeah, you made a lot of interesting points there. One thing I want to mention is um, weight when you use cardio for weight loss, um, you're really burning a lot, or you're really losing a lot of water weight. And I think a lot of people miss out on the fact that when you weight train, at a certain point, your body's going to be burning fats for fuel anyway. There's that classic line of like, you can't burn muscle and gain, or you can't add muscle and burn fat at the same time. And no, like they aren't happening at that exact same moment, but you can do them kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
symbiotically. And when your glycogen stores are down to like 70-80%, your body starts looking for fats for fuel. So, I think there's actually more of an argument for weights over cardio, because cardio is just going to strictly burn calories for that session. You're going to perspire, you're going to lose some water weight, and you're going to be aerobically burning fats, and even if you're sprinting every now and then, you're going to be burning some carbs. But at the end of the day, you're not actually making improvements to that metabolic system in a way that with weights, you're improving the lean muscle mass on your system, which raises your metabolic rate. So you're burning more calories per hour, and you're burning more calories overall, right? So, in the name of the game is efficiency. So you're trying to get all that done, all that work done on your body while doing the least amount of work, essentially. Because when we talk about trying to improve our cardiovascular system, and mentioned improving your heart and everything, when you do long bouts of cardio, they have lots of studies on this, and I'm not sure what the exact cutoff is, but they're talking about like half marathons and on up. You're actually putting so much stress on the heart, on the ventricles, on the other mechanisms of the heart, the chambers and everything, that you are making long-term effects sink in and actually hurting your longevity. So cardio should be done in shorter ranges, quite frankly. And the important thing is getting yourself to those higher heart rate ranges. Like you said, you want to improve your parasympathetic nervous system. That's at your lower zones of your like 55 to 65% of your heart rate. But to improve your cardio function is to be able to stress it to its highest point and still get to work through that range. So it's important to remember you want to do those long duration parasympathetic cardio sessions so that you're improving your resting heart rate, you're improving your basal metabolic rate, you're improving your respiration rate, just all the background processes that go on without you cognitively thinking. They'll all improve, but you need to do something to challenge that ceiling and go to your max heart rate so that your heart can be comfortable in that range.
And that is where everyone has their mile time, or I keep this pace for 3 miles, and I'm like, cool, that's a 3-mile run. It takes you 20 minutes or whatever. But same thing with cardio is, like you said, getting away from that traditional like repetitiveness of, I'm going to run at this pace for this pace, and I expect my speed to go. It's like, no, you can take a month off of doing, say, your traditional running, and go do a month of high intensity sprints or threshold training, where you're training just underneath your max threshold for about 3 to 5 minutes or even longer, and do that for a month and then change it up, or go back to the treadmill, and I guarantee you your output will be better, and you haven't even stepped on a treadmill yet. And I think when you tell people that, people kind of get a little taken back. They're like, well, if I'm not working on, my running, how am I going to get better? It's like, you're looking at it a wrong way. You're looking at your cardio as your ability, is you want to increase your, like you said, your engine, your output. You can't just work one side of it to get the other. And that's what a lot of people.
That's a really good point. And I think I feel like the psychology there is, it's like simple logic of, well, in order to train for a marathon, I need to prove to myself that I can run a freaking marathon. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's where that thought pattern comes in. But you're totally right. It's like about improving everything that's going to be associated with achieving that marathon.
And you look at these top marathon runners, and these ones that finish with good times, they're not just training medium distance, long distance. They're going tempo runs. They're doing some sprints. They're doing hill works. They're doing long runs and slow runs, but they're working every aspect of their heart, which is a muscle, to be more efficient. The person that just does a long run every Sunday and does some medium runs, they're not going to get as good as they want to be without that periodized programming, and starting off working different systems and then whittling down to, hey, how can I be most efficient? And then you can flip that and say same thing for the weights. So it's this back and forth thing of, okay, yeah, you do the same exact thing with the weights. You're on a program for say 3 to 4 months, and it's the same damn thing over and over again. You can't expect people to change. Going back to people getting stale and hitting that wall, is they don't see these changes happen anymore, or their body gets efficient. To lift 100 pounds 10 times week one, great. Your body's going to figure out how to become more efficient and use less energy to do that, because it doesn't using a lot of energy is not what the body wants to do. We want to our bodies wants to conserve energy and be this kind of, hey, I don't want to push past that homeostatic area because we're comfortable. What do you think after 3 weeks of lifting that 100 pounds? Yeah, it feels great, it feels light. That's not going to give you an effect anymore.
Yeah, there's a saying, and I'm trying to look it up right now, and I can't find it, but it's something like I forget what this. It's just like, how thin can you slice a piece of bread? And the point of the saying is like, you could sit there all fucking day long, and then at a certain point, you're not slicing bread anymore. You're not doing anything. It's like you could sit there all day long, and if your bench is 100 pounds, your squat's 200 pounds, your deadlift's 300 pounds, and then you go to 101 and 202 and 30 or 201 and 301, and you keep adding 1 pound, 1 pound, 1 pound. Like you can only get so far before you're not doing anything. You're not going to make any improvements. You're not going to be. You're just simply testing yourself at that point. You're not setting yourself up to get better at anything or improving in any way. So, the best way to sum it up is diversification. Diversification in the modality for which you
Yeah.
perform your exercise. Have you ever heard that
I
term though? How
haven't, but
thin
I
can you
do
slice a
like
piece
it.
of bread
I
or
think
something like that?
it
Uh,
puts that into perspective.
it basically has to do with like it's like splitting hairs. You can only split hairs so long before you run out of a method or run out of products, and you can only like continuously try to run every single day 1 inch or 1 mile further so many times before you just will literally plateau. Your body won't be making any improvements if you're not doing any other accessory work for that. You're just doing long runs every single day, and the next day you try to run a little bit further. You're going to reach a point where you're not going to see any more returns anymore, and you're going to be doing so much damage that you're going to get to the law of diminishing returns, where all of a sudden you're starting to run less and less each day. You're actually doing damage, detrimental long-term damage on your
And
body
our
and on your
biggest thing
system.
is, like, we know there's no right and wrong. I don't want people to coming away from this and saying, "Oh, I should be doing more of this or more of that." I want people taking away, okay, what do I need to do to
No,
increase my optimum performance for longevity? Take that away from here. The
yeah,
programming.
exactly. And if your goal isn't longevity, if your goal is strictly just fat loss or weight loss, then you got to understand that yeah, you do want to lose fat, and do you want fewer fat cells or do you want your fat cells to be smaller? And I think it's important to dive in real quick and kind of make these distinctions because liposuction will remove fat and it won't make the fat cells smaller, but it will you'll have fewer fat cells, but it won't fix you metabolically. So I think that's where it's really important to think of cardio because when you're doing cardio, it's like you're just basically a longer version of liposuction, right? Where liposuction would take like an hour, you take a year with cardio and you get all that fat gone. But you never improved yourself metabolically. And it's going to be easier unless you've completely changed all your habits and lifestyle around and everything you eat. It's going to be easier if you were to gain that weight back than if you had lost that weight with just using weight training. But it's kind of an unfair answer because, like we said, we are associating weight training with someone who goes in and warms up and gets their aerobic system turned on and does a couple warm up exercises, and they're getting a real training effect out of their weight training. So I think I think there's a good time now that we kind of define these two terms. We probably should have done it in the beginning, but what do you think of when you hear cardio? Because I feel like most people are going to think, what's better, cardio versus weights? They're going to think cardio is me stepping on a treadmill, and weights is me going in the free weight room and picking some stuff up, doing a couple overhead presses and maybe some bench presses. So how would you look at cardio? If I was said to you, what's better, cardio versus weights? What's your first thought when I say cardio?
Circulation. That's what I think.
And if you're thinking of a cardio workout, how do you define that? What are you looking at?
Traditional cardio.
What variables are you looking at?
60
How long is it going to be?
of my heart rate max. If you don't know a heart rate max, you're kind of like 7 on a 10 scale of exertion rate. We're not going crazy. Maybe a run, cycling. That's what I think cardio.
Okay.
Very basic.
Okay. Yeah. I'm on board. And then how long would you say a cardio session would be? Yeah, I'm right around there. I would think that if you asked me that question, I'm thinking, 30 minutes on the stair mill or 30 minutes of weight training. I would probably be thinking like 30 minutes. So let's stick with that time. 30 minutes is 60 to 80% of your heart rate on a bike, elliptical, stair mill, treadmill. It doesn't really matter. Just has to be in that percentage of your heart rate zone. I like how you define that. So let's go over to the weight side. What would an equivalent weight training workout look like in 30 minutes
to get the same cardio effect? Oh,
not necessarily the same. Well, just how you would look at this question. If someone came up to you and said, Menchie, what do you think's better, 30 minutes of weight training or 30 minutes of cardio? And you tell them the weight training, they say, okay, well,
to me,
30 minutes of weight training
is circuit style weight training. We're talking 45 seconds to maximum 60 seconds in between sets of exercise, 8 to 10 exercises. You can either go through them in supersets, trisets, or straight through cyclical and repeat 30 minutes. That's what it looks like to me. Now understanding the question a little bit better is when I think people look at it, and old me years ago, before I really kind of dove into, the exercise physiology of it, I would have been like, I don't have 30 minutes is not enough for me to get a weight training effect. Because I used to be like, it'd be like, that's only like 2 or 3 exercises. Like, what am I going to get out of that? I need like an hour and a half. So I 100% see where people are like, all right, I pick cardio, I get a better effect.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point because I used to spend like 2 to 3 hours in the gym. I was in college. We had plenty of time. We were just chatting, hanging out most of the time. But in reality, looking back at some of our workouts, and I have a journal of everything we did, and our workouts were 2 to 3 muscle groups, 3 to 4 exercises per muscle group. Yeah, it's like 10 exercises, and we must have been resting a lot. Like it was 3 of us at least, and we would all take turns and or chatting and going around, and we would definitely spend 15-20 minutes warming up. Though we were really good about that. We would do 10-minute jog and then 5 minutes of stretching before we would get going. But yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think most people ask that question and they probably think 30 minutes of weights, like that's enough for me to look through my phone and find a workout. You know what I mean? Or 30 minutes of just hopping on a treadmill and going, like that's way easier to fathom. So it is like a perception thing. That's why I wanted to ask, because I guarantee I knew that our perception of those 2 words is different than what other people would think. Where other people are thinking like 30 minutes. I have 30 minutes. I walk into the gym. Say I have 45 minutes. I got to get to the gym. I got to change. I got to also come home. I got a conference call right at noon. So I got to be in and out and be home by noon. they're like 30 minutes, that's nothing on weights. And in reality, it's actually a lot. If you can spend 5 minutes warming up, you can get eight exercises done in circuit style, supersetting everything, 3 rounds, 10 reps of everything with progressive load. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I think just knowing is power.
Now, if I
Knowing.
on flip that around the questions, would you kind of have the same similar answers that I would if it said, "Hey, cardio or weights," or do you look at it a little different, or have a different appreciation for it?
So if you had told me cardio, I was right on the same page with you.
Okay.
And then when you said weights, I thought of how I defined it, which was 2 to 3 exercises, 2 to 3 muscle groups, um, three to four exercises each. And I realized how archaic that is of me and how like bodybuilding esque that
Yeah.
comes down
Mhm.
to. But if you told me like 30 minutes to work out, I probably would have based it on what I did that week. So like if I hadn't squatted, if I hadn't front squatted, if I hadn't benched, if I hadn't deadlift, I probably would have just used that opportunity to be like, I'm just gonna do that one exercise for those 30 minutes. But if I had done all those, I probably would have been like 30 minutes. All right, I'm gonna go grab some battle ropes. I'm gonna grab some dumbbells. I'm gonna go grab or I'd go out back and grab a medicine ball with a tire, or maybe I'd go near the stairs with whatever, like a sled or something. So I would definitely gear it around like whatever, like 10 sets of 30-second ropes, and then a round of something with like 5 flights of stairs and a sled or something. So I would definitely make it geared around functional training. It's weight training 2019 version.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is we're starting, and research has shown for years that this kind of style of training actually increases peak oxygen consumption. And for this one, kind of give it a little people a little background of it. Circuit weight training usually consists of 12 to 15 reps. I mean, anywhere you're not using heavy weight. You're probably 40 to 60, maybe 7% of your one rep max or what your exertion is. And I said 45 seconds. It could even be as low as 15 to 30 seconds. And it has shown an increase in VO2 peak in 20 weeks. It's shown 4% change in men and an 8% change in women. So if if someone says, "Hey, for 20
Yeah.
weeks I can't run or I can't really do my tradition," I'll be like, "Hey, circuit weight training, you get the same effect. Your heart's going to use oxygen." And same thing, I throw this word around a lot is double product or rate pressure product, and that's basically measuring the heart and see how much myocardial work it can do and its oxygen consumption. So when you're getting these high heart rates and doing multiple reps on these circuit training, your heart's actually just consuming oxygen. So weight training is not your traditional like bodybuilding or powerlifting sets. It's changing to more of how can I drive a high heart rate and get a benefit from it, because you're going to get blood pressure with that heart rate equals that double product. That's the goal. How much can your heart use?
And we just identified another problem with the question, the weight training side of it, because tension is really what you and I are thinking of right now. And in reality, 30 minutes of cardio, a 30-minute run, or 30 minutes of weight training could be a 30-minute insanity workout at home in front of your
Mhm.
TV with push ups and sit ups and body weight squats. And I would still say that that's better than the 30-minute jog, just
And
steady
maybe,
state 30-minute jog.
oh, I agree.
In terms of improving
Absolutely.
your metabolic rate
And I think,
and yeah, yeah,
and
targeting
maybe the word,
musculoskeletal and cardiorespiratory. Whereas the running would just be
maybe the words
cardiorespiratory and
weight is
not
bad.
skeletal
Maybe
muscle.
it should be rephrased cardio or resistance training. I mean, because I love the words weights,
Yes,
but
there
I
you go.
resistance is what we really are battling. So if you're taking that insanity workout and you're doing, yeah, high heart rate, but you're also getting resistance from your own body weight, gravity, resistance from different exercises you're doing, that plays in the role.
Positions and full range of motion, contracting and lengthening the muscle to its fullest potential. Yeah, I uh, I think that's really a good distinction. So cardio versus
Resist, or not even
um,
versus cardio,
what'd you say
cardio
again?
and resistance training. That's what it
Resistance.
should be. Both.
Right. Well, I'm just saying for the heading for the question, you're right. But you're right. It's cardio and resistance training, cardio respiratory resistance training. That's what it all comes down to. Is CRRT. That's what everyone's doing when they work out or should be doing if they're weight
And
training or should be
and now I
doing if
think if
they're
we take it a
going
step
in the
further,
gym.
okay, our listeners, how do we implement this to our program now? Can we do concurrent strength and endurance training? 100%. You can, unless you are a tip specific athlete who needs to be good at certain power outputs or sprints ability, then you're in a different category. But right now, I'm talking to the general population, the people who are sitting at desks or coming in for,
The general population
yes,
athlete.
sorry,
Excuse
apologies.
you, right? No. There's the professional athlete, but there's the general population athlete, and we all know who
And
you guys are.
that's where we want to see a program with all aspects of
Right.
training built in and periodized. I mean, you can do cardiovascular work, which is your steady state. You can also do development of heavy resistance training program combined together.
Yeah.
They won't offset each other. You're not going to get good at really being like the strongest person if you do both, but that's not your goal. Our goal is to be optimal, healthy, and sustain that for a while. Metabolic systems working fine. Don't neglect those.
Yep.
But you can absolutely, studies have shown that if you do groups that are combined, you're still getting the same effect of increase in fiber types, increase in cross sectional area, increase of peak oxygen consumption, stroke volume, heart rate decreases, all that.
I would say that to sum this all up and have some applicable takeaway home information from today would be if you're weight training already and you don't have a warm up, add a warm up. Super simple, 3 to 4 minute jog. Um, do some body weight crunches or dead bugs if you know them, side planks, glute bridges, regular planks. Um, then go hit your normal weight training. You're going to get some cardio work running the whole time in the background during that session. And the next time you go in and you say to yourself, I only have 30 minutes, I'm just going to run or I'm going to just jump on the treadmill. You know, this might not be that might not be the right answer all the time, but it might be the right answer for that time. But I want you to try to pick 8 to 10 body weight exercises and circuit style them, 10 reps of everything. No cheating on any rep. Give yourself 15 seconds, 20 seconds as you move through each exercise and try to get through 3 rounds. You'll be if you do the warm up, you'll be done in 30 minutes. You'll have gotten a better workout on a short time than if you had just jogged for 30 minutes.
Another one I like, I've kind of combined it, is you can do, all right, say we'll keep the 30 minutes. You have, all right, 8 minutes on a bike,
Oh
Stairmaster,
yeah, I know what
whatever,
you're
at a
about
good
to
pace.
do.
Get off the bike, do your 5 to 6, 5 to 8 exercises, get back on another 8 minute and cycle that through 4 or 5 rounds. Boom, 30 minutes done. You've keeping the heart rate and the cardio. You've gotten some resistance in. Boom, complete
Yeah,
30
and
minutes. You are done. Sometimes those are actually one of my favorite workouts for cardio is because I'm not doing this boring like 30 minutes straight through. I'm like, okay, I'm 8 minutes. My heart rate's up, and then I'm keeping it up, but I'm doing some full body movements, getting the blood flowing all through, and then I'm coming back. Boom, another 8 minutes on, and then I get off and do the same thing. And hey, check my heart rate monitor. Look, it was between 130 and 150 the whole time. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. The heart doesn't know if I'm running, stepping,
Oh, it
cycling. It
knows.
just knows
It knows,
I'm at a
all right.
zone. Certain zone.
It's the
This is
same
my training
logic as
effect. This
people
is what
being
I need to
like,
do.
I need more carbs for fuel, so I need to eat carbs. I don't want fat in my body, so I'm not going to eat fat. I want more collagen protein, so I'm going to eat collagen protein. It's the same incorrect information. It's like trying to put it makes sense when it's a block and you're trying to put a square block through a square hole and a round block through a round hole. But yeah, it's not that easy. It's so funny. That's why I laugh.
It's all good. And that's why I kind of wanted to unload on this kind of, I don't even want to call it a myth. It's just like debate it's still ongoing. Yeah. And how do we bridge the gap and really bring people into, hey, we can get the same benefit from doing both concurrently, or we can get the same benefit from like, hey, just changing one style, resistance, and getting cardio. Now, on the other side, you can get resistance training from cardio, if you can believe it. High resistance intervals. Crank. You ever take a spin bike and crank that up to heavy resistance, or a Versa climber, and you're stepping really slow, pushing through? You are training. Yeah, you're training type 2 fiber types to get efficient, but you're training those muscle fiber types to be better. So you're getting that high resistance. You're still getting cardio in. Best of both worlds. So
it's pretty fun if you do. I know what you were saying before, the 8-minute thing, and I usually keep it to like 3 minutes, but because I know you got to be at least 3 minutes for the aerobic system. But what I do like doing is I'll do this for like 30 seconds to a minute, and I'll pick a muscle group. Maybe it's legs, and we squat or front squat, and then we just like run or do a sled or run up the stairs. Something where you're just using that same muscle group again, and maybe it doesn't even have to be power, right? It's not necessarily even PAPs, but I'll do the same thing with like benching. I'll do like a heavy bench and then go do ropes for a minute. So it's like you're still working the same muscle and having to get your cardio in, and it's the exact same muscle that you just used for strength. And I love doing that because it's a nice slow burn, but you're working the type 2 fibers or type 1 fibers. You're working different stabilizers, and it's a really good way for building up muscle and actually getting some cardio in.
Keeping the system healthy and going. That's what we want. And I think a big takeaway of this episode is find that balance. And if you don't, feel free to email us. We do this daily and customize so many programs for clients, individuals, ourselves. If you need that extra push, always feel free. Reach out. Our email is in the show notes. Reach out to either Matt or I. Ask questions. Dive deeper in. I don't know, Matt. What else you got?
That's it. I mean, you summed it up. Basically, ask questions. If you can't find your answers online or with the people around you, feel free to find someone else or send us an email. But you got to ask questions to get the right answers. And I think that wraps it up.
Boom.
Peace.